Welcome back to another vlog of mine. It's been a very long time since I've done one of these. It was July 15th of last year, so over 6 months since I've done this. And it's not to say that I didn't have a couple things I wanted to bring up, but by the time the timing worked out, it was just, so it's been a while. I've got a couple, three areas that I want to cover, and I want to try to make it as quickly as I can, because I think this might be a little bit longer than my typical target vlog of like 10 minutes. I do try to aim for that. But this one will probably be a little bit longer than that, just because I have to go over a few things. So those things that I want to go over are basically a short recap of last summer and my efforts and kind of how I thought and felt about that, and ultimately why it went from that to basically dead cold, if you will, because I haven't really been doing anything in a while, on anything. I haven't done much anything in a while. So why would I go from like all that to nothing? And then I also want to kind of bring up a little bit at the end here about my sort of current sense of where I'm at and why I'm doing this again, I guess. So let's just jump into it. Excuse me. So if you've been paying attention to the Kelowna's Good stuff, you're probably aware of a lot of the events that I've been trying to cover. Virtually 90% of those have been me just diligently looking at calendars and events and things and just seeing how can I go do something somewheres and just have something to show for it that still has some sort of value. Again, just sort of getting out there, right? A large part of them, a lot of those projects were done in photos, just because the risks are much lower. If I come back with a few good photos or whatever, then, it worked, hooray, I'm a photographer. But it's the videography that I really want to get into. And I did get some good video projects too in that. But yeah, I mean, it basically all started with the Knox Hill climb. And again, I was just showing up and just kind of doing my thing, and I was just doing photos, and I'm really happy. If you've seen those ones, those are really good. Basically went all over the mountain for 2 days and had a lot of fun doing that. And then I had a couple of car shows. Seemed to be like a car themed start to the year. I got involved with the Father's Day, the Boyd's Father's Day car show, and I tried to get on really early to try to do some promotions of the events. However, I couldn't quite get to the right person in the right time to make something work. I did my best to just do what I can to help promote it, and I think for what it was good. I have no way to measure the success of that, but unfortunately, the day of the car show, it rained, and the video idea, I guess, that I had in mind that I was trying to do just went out the door, So I resorted to photos, and I got those up online on Facebook. And just between you and I don't know what happened, but sometime in the last 6 months or so, I actually lost all my original photos for that. And I have a very rigorous redundancy system to make sure stuff like that doesn't happen. So I don't know what happened to them. So that was my first, these things happen to everybody. More hard drives. I got lots of hard drives, but I don't know what happened. So anyway, all the while that's happening, I went to the Falcons game quite a few times. I was fortunate enough that they're just like, you know what, do your thing, and it's pretty good. There's a lot more that I wanted to do. But the classic story is I was never able to get a sit down outside of the game to talk about what we could potentially do. It was just basically, I showed up and I just tried to get some stuff. So I got some good photos. In fact, I got a lot more stuff that didn't actually make it out because I was hoping that it can go into a video or something like that. So I got some like odds and ends and stuff that haven't been seen yet. But I did do a They had a big event day thing. They had the fire people coming in, and they had a whole bunch of stuff going on. I can't really remember off the top of my head. And I did pull off a video that I was quite proud of. That was like, I think my first big video, if you will, of the year, that I was like, yes, that worked. Because a lot of things have to like line up for that to work. There's a lot of things I've worked on where I'm like, no, that's not, can't share that. It's not complete. But with that said too, you know, rolling on into it, we had the Canada Day, and actually that was another kind of a bit of a fail on my part. I had battery issues, and my story that I was trying to get didn't quite materialize. I know I need to set up my talking points well in advance, and long story short, it didn't really work out. And at the end of the Canada Day event, I was going, I've got really nothing here to show for it. But I have a lot of ideas, because that's the second Canada Day event thing, and I need to network and connect and be, you know, connect with the right people at the right time to make sure in advance things are set up so I can actually create something awesome that has value. All in all, moving along on from that, the airport had their 75th anniversary, and they brought in the Canadian snowboards, the Canadian snowbirds. I kind of got a list here on the side so I can, you know, reference that. They were also correlating with the KF Aerospace Center of Excellence. It's basically a museum, if I were to sum it up in one word. Really cool museum. It was still under construction when we had it, and they weren't officially open, but they were actually hosting the after shows and stuff like that. And I definitely got a lot of photos out of that event, and quite stoked about those photos. So yeah, you got to check those out if you haven't seen those already. Another really cool event that actually is happening right at the same time. So I was like literally multitasking 2 projects in one weekend, but it all worked out in the end. And that was the parking lot stunt show with the Harley-Davidson of Kelowna. They brought in some guys to basically cook tires in their parking lot. And, you know, it's another example of, you know, I showed up without any expectations. Nobody knew I was coming. And I kind of got lucky, and I was able to get the story and the right B-roll and put it together. And yeah, I'm quite proud of that one. I was happy anyway. And then, you know, okay, so we're in the heat of summer now, you know, obviously, you know, we got the 2022, the block party. That one was a weird one, because when I was going in, I wasn't thinking that I had a video story. I didn't want to do the thing that I did a couple, 2-3 years ago, and just, you know, without really a story, and just, you know, a bunch of B-roll and put it together. But so I was just going to plan on just do photos actually. But something at the beginning kind of caught my attention, and I was like, hey, I'm going to do this in video. And then I just kind of went into video mode. And so I got a couple of pieces, like they're all right. They're not like, you know, they're just like little pieces, you know. But still had a good day that day. Anyway, moving on. Oh yeah. So one of those car shows that I was sort of just kind of going out about, there was a company called Fortune Creek that really liked the photos that I was taking, and they really wanted me to do something like that for them for a couple events they were getting involved with. One of them being the River Rock Music Festival, which is down by Merritt. So it wasn't really a Kelowna thing. So yeah, they took me out there and took a bunch of pictures. It was definitely a classic example of one of those days where I wish I was there for like 2 or 3 days so I could really do video and get more photos. You know, like I was just warming up, and I was like, but it was still nice to get out there. And then at the same time, again, all at the same time, they had the Okanagan Dream Rally, and you know, they wanted some photos of that as well. So I was able to get involved with that, and that was pretty awesome. I like that. And you know, I mean, that was pretty much getting towards the end of the year there. As far as projects, like big stories after that, it kind of, I mean, I got a couple little things, but you know, nothing really noteworthy. But all in all, so, you know, we're into September now, and I'm like, okay, I got some things that I'm really happy about. I got some things that maybe could have worked out better, and you know, it is what it was as it was. And I was kind of down on myself, if you will, where I was like, okay, after all this, what do I got to show? I got a little bit of momentum, but due to the resources that I have issues with, if you check out my last vlog, it's all about the resources. I didn't go into too many specifics, but you know, I'm basically this whole time running at the seat of like the limits of what I can do in terms of like where I can go and what I can do, and I know I can do more than that, but I'm, you know, bottlenecked under a ceiling of what I have for, you know, resources that are available to me. And anyway, as I was looking at it, I was thinking, or looking back on it, I was thinking like, you know, because like, you know, from the inside, if you will, like how I'm feeling, it's like, it's, you know, hit and miss, and the miss parts were, you know, am I barking up the right tree? Am I really doing what I should be doing? You know, like there's certainly things I think that is absolutely true, but I was just wondering, like, what's missing? Like, why am I not, why isn't my email box not full, but like, why aren't people, you know, and it's a bit of a problem that I have, and I won't, you know, but it's, when I'm on the job, let's say, if I'm, you know, in photo mode or video mode, I'm thinking of the story, I don't really have time to network. But I've never been able to figure out how to network outside of that. So that's still something that I've been just struggling on. So, you know, September's basically like the end of all the seasonal stuff, if you want to call it that. And the calendars are starting to get a little bit lighter. I mean, from my perspective, there's always a story out there to go tell. But if I'm not, you know, involved with people, then it's like, you know, I can't just show up to people's random things with, it just, you know, they have to be big enough of publicly events for me to just show up and get away with that, right? So, you know, I was just thinking like, well, what if I'm not the right person for this job? What if maybe some part of it for sure, but what if I'm overstepping my abilities or whatever? Maybe I'm living too much in a dream and in a bubble. So I went to Work BC, and I basically, this is like the middle part. So that was like the first part. This is where I was just wondering, I wanted to get an unbiased perspective of what am I best suited for, if you will. I don't know if I'm finding the right words for that. So I knew, vaguely speaking, I think there were personality tests and whatnot out there online, and I didn't want to do that myself because I didn't want to get a result and just look at it by myself and go, okay, well, okay, that makes sense, I guess, but, you know, what do I do from there, right? So through Work BC, I wanted to get that done, and I wanted to see them with the results, and I wanted them to guide their, whatever their process was, with that sort of in mind first. And then I would share my story about, you know, where I come from, what I'm trying to do. And so like the first test, and I won't go into a great detail, there's actually like 3 key things. First test was, pardon me, I can't remember where it was done, but it was basically like a personality test. And I won't go into a whole big thing on this. If you want to look into it, go right ahead. But I am an INFJ-T. And apparently that is also the rarest personality type out there. And, you know, I guess, I don't know. Like, what am I supposed to say about that, right? But we did another test, and this one here was at the Holland, the Holland Code Career Test. And this one had some overlap with the personality test, but it definitely covered some other things. I won't go into a whole rant on this, but I wanted to put a little bit more focus on this. As you can see here, they kind of break things down into like 6 different sort of categories, if you want to call it that. And I kind of looked at it, if I just looked at the top 3 and ignored the bottom 3, that's where I should focus. And then if you look at the top 3 that I have, we're basically looking at thinking, persuasion, and creative skills, right? And again, without, I don't really want to go into a whole ramble or a rant, but I just want to touch on the top 3 here, you know. So I scored the best in thinking, a perfect 100 apparently. That actually impressed the lady I was working with, because she was like, oh, I've never seen that before. But, you know, thinking jobs that involve theory, research, and intellectual inquiry. Thinkers like working with ideas and concepts and enjoy science, technology, and academia. And then the other one is creating, and that's creating jobs that involve arts, design, language, and self-expression. Creators like working in unconstructed environments and producing something unique. This is all starting to sound a little familiar. And then there's the persuading part, and this is the one that I have a lot of experience in, but I think I'm still struggling with, just in the current context of my experiences here in Kelowna anyway. But my persuading jobs involve leading and motivating and influencing others, persuading like in working positions of power to make decisions and carry out projects. So again, like, these things are making sense. And when I look at the other 3, I should just make it, you know, like the building, so it really, you know, I'm not going to be a carpenter. I'm not going to get into the trades. The helping, you know, as much as I am here and wanting to do this to help people that I can, the context of what they're referring to in this might mean that I'm not necessarily the best fit for like that. But that's the one that I'd probably challenge the most. I think that would depend on the right circumstances. I think I could be quite helpful. But at the same time, like I said, I don't think I'd go out of my way to become something like a social worker. Even though I respect, let's say, that industry as a whole in terms of what they're trying to do, I believe that they're largely tied down to a lot of bureaucracy and issues that don't make them as effective as I think they should be. But that's what I want to do, is help figure out how to make things work better. And yeah, the organizing, which was really weird, because I've always thought of myself as very organized, but in the context of how they're referring to it, I guess it makes sense. So anyway, without going off on that, they had some you know, top career matches and stuff like that, and I'll just kind of just throw them out there. You know, agricultural and engineering managers, natural science managers, lawyers, sales engineers, material engineers, mining and geological engineers, agricultural engineers, urban or regional planners, physician and surgeon, which ironically enough, I don't really ever, I don't like, okay. Historians, advertising and promotion managers, sales managers, public relation managers, top executives, producer or director, and well, that's a list right there. Now, this was mostly just a list of things based off of this test here, and I think a lot of this is actually kind of on the mark, but it's not as quite refined. And so the third test that I took was done at truly.com, and I have a very brief, like, it sort of cuts it down even more. Where did I put it? All right, so this is where, so if you go to trudy.com, this is where they actually take those 2 test scores, if you will, or not scores, but the results of both of those tests, and they really merge it together. And again, I won't go into a big explainer part, but this is actually probably a more refined list than the one that I just mentioned. And if I just included the top 3 and removed the bottom 3 kind of thing, they're basically saying that I should be looking into these fields, you know, actors, architects, art directors, editors, graphic designers, historians, interior designers, lawyer, multimedia artist or animator, a musician or a singer, natural science manager, producer or director, public relations manager, reporter / correspondent, urban or regional planner, and a writer or author. So again, without going into a whole whatever there, you know, I've had a lot of time to stew on that and analyze that for myself. You know, combining like things of the past and things of, you know, like that whole sum of things of like, who am I? Because that's ultimately what I've been struggling on a lot in the last couple of years, is like, who am I? I don't even know who I am or who I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to do. I feel lost, you know, and I feel like, you know, like it's like everywhere I go, I don't fit in exactly. And yet I've gone my whole life with people telling me, you know, I shouldn't change. You know, I should keep being whoever it is that I am. But trying to monetize whoever it is that I am, I'm having a hard time doing that. You know, all these jobs listed, for the most part, they're all nice six-figure incomes, and that's where I need to be. You know, there's a lot of personal goals. You know, like I've always wanted to have a family and whatnot. You know, yada yada yada. It does require, like, middle class starts at six figures. Unfortunately, if you're kind of below that, or the farther you are away from that, you're 30, 40K jobs just don't do it. That's just taking care of yourself, I guess, and that's it. I want more than that. And I think I'm worth more than that. And I think if I can figure that out, not only will I get what I need for my life and whatnot, but, you know, I hope to believe that there's a value in what I can do, so I'm valuable to other people's lives. Problem is who do I need to talk to? Because I'm still unsure of any of that. So, and that's where I'm at right now, you know. I'm still essentially in the same boat as my last vlog, in that I'm struggling to figure out what resources that I have and where should I go from here. And unfortunately with Work BC, you know, it's been a slow process, you know. And, you know, I've been, you know, trying to do my best to, you know, do what they're wanting me to do. You know, we went over my resume, we rebuilt it, and I've applied for probably some 50 jobs now or whatever. And honestly, I don't really think the looking for work with a resume process is the way that I'm going to get work for what I have, for my abilities and what I can do with it. If that makes sense. I'm not really looking for a job per se. I'm looking to help solve business problems. And so anyway, like, I've been going through this process trying to figure out what, you know, if I need to get a job that is meets some of my needs, if you will, you know, whether it's income related or personal development or whatever, you know, for sure. But it's like, it's easier said than done. Much easier said than done. And I know some people have said many things over the years, really, and they're like, oh, you just gotta, you know, do this. And it's like, well, I don't know if my personality has anything to do with it. I'm sure it does, but I'm not like most people, and I can't be put into the same box as most people, if you will. You know, when I look at all the jobs and things that I've done in my entire life, everything that has been in line with this, I've excelled at to some degree. Like, it fits, it clicks, it moves, it motivates, it inspires, it gets me going. Every job that I've ever had or done that isn't in there, it's like, you know, I'm like, I don't want to do this, and I don't like it. You know, like, it just doesn't fit, you know. And sometimes I've had to get jobs that were just like that, but I'm just done with those type of jobs. So this is where I need some help. I need a lot of things, honestly. You know, if I were to look at my situation, I don't even have a car. You know, I decided not to have the car because I didn't want the car expense here in Kelowna. I wanted to get settled and figured out first. But the car has probably been, looking back, probably the single biggest detriment to my abilities to go forward with things. You know, riding a bike everywhere, it's changed my appearance, if you will. You know, how I dress and where I can go and at what times. And so it's kind of affected my image. And I would imagine when people look at me, they look at me and they see me from how they see me, but I don't think they really get to see me, you know, who I could be or what I am inside. It's like my exterior is a little like look at my hair. I had a wash today. I actually kind of like it when it's not as washed, so it's a little bit thicker, but but yeah, and then there's obviously the tools, you know, like this camera, it's a few years old. It's still a really good camera for what it does. It's not even the camera that's really the problem, but I got batteries. They're $100 a piece. One of them's toast. The other two are just as old and showing signs of age. It's pretty standardized. I need to have two cameras. So it's like that whole investment debate where it's like, hypothetically, if I had the resources, I'd need a second camera. Where am I going to invest my batteries? Because I'm literally looking at thousands of dollars worth of just batteries. That's one of the problems that I've had in the past. Actually, specifically Canada in both years is, 3 batteries is not enough for one camera for a day. It's not. So anyway, I'm kind of been figuring that out, but again, without any resources, without money or whatever, it's kind of hard to say. As far as lighting goes, as another example, it's like I've got some lights, but they're not as versatile. I wouldn't want to just bring what I have for a client unless it's planned out and I can go, yeah, I can use that. That'll work. But they're not as versatile is what I'm getting at. So, I mean, like long story short, from a business perspective, if I were to keep pursuing the business, I think I'm going to need about 50K of capital to inject. I guesstimate about 15K will go to like the batteries and the cameras and the lights, but the rest will probably majorly go into like marketing. There's a lot of marketing expenses that I still have to do. Like my website, and there's a lot of little things that just actually cost and add up. So that's like an arbitrary figure. And then I also got to factor in, my living situation and just how it's been for the last couple of years. It really hasn't been good for me. So ultimately, I need a car, I need business capital, and I need to find a better fit for my lifestyle that I want to try to have. And I'm just, for the last, few months, just been banging my head against the wall going, nothing works. Nothing seems to be fitting, like what, why? So, in any case though, so as of today, right now, I have an appointment with, hold on. So as of today, I have an appointment with Accelerate Okanagan, and it's going to be a phone call meeting. It'll be about 45 minutes. And what I hope to address in that is, should I be pursuing the business, or should I be pursuing or helping or aiding in somebody else's business? And I think, and what I hope I'm going to get out of that meeting is, a direction, and the type of business they're in. They should be able to help in both directions, but I hope they'll be able to kind of maybe even see this video and at least try to help me, guide me somewhere, because I feel lost. I feel like what am I doing? It's like, so, I mean, I feel a little bit more optimistic in the last couple of days here, but I'm still have some issues I got to deal with. And, yeah. So, those are basically the 3 things I wanted to cover, like where I was over summer, why I quit or stopped, and essentially where I'm at today. And really they're all connected. They're all, it's just one long story in the last little while. And from my point of view, it hasn't really changed much, but I haven't really been able to at least share it a bit. So I'm sharing it. I'm getting you guys updated, and I hope that, I really do hope that this is like one of many, many, many vlogs to come in the future. That this has just been a rough start, but I need help, and I need help, and the best way for me to get help is I need to help somebody else. So I'm asking you, if you need help, or if you know someone that needs help, or if you know how you can help me, help is needed, because it's that or things get, that's it. Well, where do I go from here? So thank you for watching. This has been a bit longer. Again, I like to aim for 10 minutes, but lots to cover. So I hope you got some value out of this, and thank you for watching, and well, have yourself a good one, and we'll see you around.